Everything begins the moment you recognize your own worth. Not when someone praises you, not when the world finally acknowledges your efforts, but when, deep down, you decide that you are enough as you are, right now. For most of your life, you've probably been taught to look outward for your value, to seek permission before you speak, to prove your worth through achievements, or to earn love by being useful. And for a while, it works until one day you realize that no matter how much you give, it never feels like enough. That's because worth cannot be given to you. It must be claimed by you. When you finally pause and say, "I matter," everything shifts. You begin to see how much of your life has been lived trying to meet expectations that were never truly yours. You notice the way you've silenced your own voice just to keep the peace, or how you've ignored your own dreams just to be accepted. And then, for the first time, you start to question it. Why have I been living like this? That question is the beginning of transformation. It's uncomfortable, it's raw, but it's real, because the truth is self. Worth doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being honest. Honest about your fears, your flaws, and your potential. When you start valuing yourself, you stop settling for crumbs. You stop chasing people who only show up when it's convenient for them. You stop trying to fit into places that require you to shrink. Instead, you stand taller, you speak slower, you move with intention. Because when you know your worth, you no longer need to prove it. It simply radiates from how you carry yourself. But let's be clear, recognizing your worth doesn't mean arrogance. It's not shouting, "I'm better than you." It's whispering to yourself, "I deserve better than this." It's quiet strength. It's the power that comes from self-respect, not ego. It's knowing that your kindness is valuable, but not free. That your time has meaning, that your energy is sacred. And once you understand that, you stop allowing people to treat you like you're replaceable, because you finally see that you're not. There will be resistance, of course. People who benefited from your low self-esteem won't clap when you start to love yourself. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. You have. You've stopped living on your knees. You've stopped apologizing for existing. And that's going to make some people uncomfortable, because your growth will expose their stagnation. But you can't live your life dimming your light just so others don't feel insecure. Your worth isn't up for negotiation. The truth is, recognizing your value is the most radical act of self-liberation there is. Because once you see yourself clearly, you can never go back to pretending. You begin to treat yourself differently. You eat better, speak kinder, dream bigger. You stop tolerating chaos and start craving peace. You no longer chase love, you attract it. You no longer fear failure, you learn from it. You no longer doubt your path, you walk it with conviction. Every powerful transformation begins here with self-recognition. Because once you see your worth, you won't accept being treated like you're less. Once you believe in your value, you'll stop looking for people to save you, and start becoming the person you were always meant to be. You'll realize that the life you want isn't built from luck or approval. It's built from the moment you decide you deserve more. And when that realization sinks in, something beautiful happens. The world starts to respond differently. Opportunities appear, relationships shift, your energy changes, because everything, absolutely everything, begins to transform when you finally do. People often wonder why they keep attracting the same kind of disrespect, the same one. Sided relationships, the same moments where they feel unseen or unappreciated. They think it's bad luck, or that the world is just unfair. But here's the truth, you teach people how to treat you. Every time you let someone cross a boundary without consequence, every time you stay silent when something hurts you, every time you downplay your own needs, you're training the world on how little you believe you deserve. The way you treat yourself sets the standard. If you constantly criticize yourself, accept less than you give, or keep showing up for people who never show up for you, others take notice and they follow your lead. People mirror the energy you project. If you act like your time doesn't matter, no one else will respect it. If you pretend that your emotions aren't valid, no one will take them seriously. But when you begin to honor yourself, when you start showing up with self-respect, the world shifts to match that energy. It starts in the smallest ways, the way you speak to yourself in the morning, the way you handle your mistakes, the way you decide to stop saying sorry for existing and start saying thank you for being understood. When you start treating yourself with kindness and dignity, it changes your posture, your voice, your presence. You walk into rooms differently. You stop begging for attention and start commanding it, not through arrogance, but through quiet confidence. Think about it. If you don't value your peace, why would anyone else protect it? If you allow people to walk over you, why would they ever learn to walk beside you? You can't demand respect from the world while disrespecting yourself. Respect isn't given. It's earned through the consistency of your own behavior. It's the small decisions, choosing rest over burnout, choosing truth over pleasing, choosing boundaries over guilt. Every choice sends a message. Asterisk, this is how I expect to be treated. Asterisk, of course, it's not easy. Many of us were raised to believe that self-sacrifice equals love. That being agreeable, even at the cost of our own happiness, makes us good people. But that's a lie that's kept too many people trapped in cycles of pain. True kindness doesn't come from self-erasure, it comes from wholeness. When you respect yourself, your love becomes stronger, not weaker. You no longer help others out of fear of losing them. You help from a place of strength, because you've already chosen not to lose yourself in the process. You'll notice, too, that when you change how you treat yourself, your relationships will change. Some people will fall away because they were only comfortable with the version of you who accepted less. Don't mourn that. It's proof of your growth. And others will rise to meet your new standard, because real connection thrives on mutual respect. When you elevate your own treatment of yourself, you elevate every connection in your life. The greatest lesson in self-worth isn't about convincing others that you matter. It's about showing yourself that you do, day after day, in the way you live. The mirror doesn't lie. If you look at your reflection and treat it with compassion, forgiveness, and discipline, you create a foundation of strength that no one can shake. People can sense that. They can feel the difference between someone who's desperate for approval and someone who carries quiet assurance. You teach others how to treat you not through words, but through example, through how you handle disappointment, how you enforce your boundaries, and how you honor your own needs. The moment you start valuing yourself, you stop accepting half love, empty apologies, and shallow respect. Because you finally understand that the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every relationship that follows. And when you start treating yourself like someone worthy of love, the world has no choice but to follow your lead. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that peace isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you protect. And one of the most powerful ways to protect it is by setting boundaries. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about letting the right people in. They're not walls built from fear. They're gates built from self-respect. The moment you decide to define what's acceptable and what's not, you begin to reclaim control over your life. Most people struggle with boundaries because they fear rejection. They believe that saying no will make others angry, or that standing up for themselves will make them seem selfish. But the truth is, constantly saying yes when you want to say no doesn't make you kind, it makes you invisible. It erases your identity, your needs, and your voice. You start living for everyone else's comfort, while your own soul quietly suffocates. And that's not compassion, that's self-abandonment. When you start setting boundaries, you'll feel guilt at first. That's natural. You've been conditioned to equate your worth with how much you can give. But boundaries aren't about withholding love. They're about giving it more wisely. It's saying, I can care about you, but not at the expense of myself. It's understanding that being available 24/7 doesn't make you loyal, it makes you drain. And you can't pour from an empty cup. Boundaries are the mark of emotional maturity. They show that you understand the difference between helping and enabling, between compassion and codependency. You stop rescuing people from their own lessons and start allowing them to grow. You stop trying to fix what's not yours to fix. And in that process, you discover a powerful truth. Peace doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling access to yourself. It's important to remember that not everyone will like your boundaries. Some people benefited from your lack of them. They'll accuse you of changing, of being cold or distant. But that's only because they can no longer exploit your kindness. Don't mistake their discomfort for wrongdoing. Growth makes people uncomfortable, especially those who were comfortable with your silence. You have to stand firm. Boundaries aren't about pleasing others. They're about protecting your well-being. As you practice, boundaries become easier. You start recognizing red flags earlier. You stop explaining yourself endlessly. You stop negotiating your worth. You begin to notice that the people who truly respect you never take your boundaries personally. They appreciate them. Because boundaries don't push away love. They filter out everything that isn't love. They create space for relationships built on trust, respect, and authenticity. Think about it. When you know where you end and others begin, life becomes simpler. You no longer feel responsible for everyone's emotion. You stop carrying burdens that aren't yours to carry, and in that clarity you find freedom. You realize that saying no to someone else is often saying yes to your own peace. You stop running on empty because you've learned that protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's survival. Setting boundaries teaches you to live with integrity. It demands that you honor your values, your needs, and your limits. It turns your I should into I choose. And that shift changes everything. It's no longer about what people expect of you. It's about what you expect of yourself. You start showing up in the world differently, grounded, calm, and confident. People feel that. They can sense when someone knows their worth and won't compromise it for approval. When you master the art of boundaries, life feels lighter. You no longer chase peace, you embody it. You no longer beg for respect, you command it, because you've learned that your time, energy, and love are sacred, and not everyone deserves access to them. And that's when you realize something profound. Boundaries aren't a form of control, they're a declaration of freedom. Life has a strange way of mirroring back to you what you believe about yourself. The energy you carry, the standards you live by, the way you treat yourself, all of it becomes a signal to the world, telling people what to expect from you and how to engage with you. When you don't value yourself, you attract situations that confirm that belief. You find yourself surrounded by people who take more than they give, jobs that drain your spirit, and relationships that leave you questioning your worth. But the moment you decide to raise your value, everything begins to shift. You see, the world doesn't respond to what you want asterisk. It responds to what you believe asterisk. You can say you want respect, love, and success, but if deep down you believe you're unworthy of it, your actions will betray that belief. You'll tolerate mistreatment. You'll stay silent when you should speak up. You'll hide your brilliance out of fear that it might make others uncomfortable. And in doing so, you unknowingly invite the very energy that keeps you small. But when you start to honor your worth, truly honor it, something powerful happens. You stop chasing. You stop begging for attention, approval, or validation. You begin to move with quiet assurance, knowing that what's meant for you won't require you to shrink to fit. That shift in energy is magnetic. People feel it. Opportunities sense it. The universe, in its own mysterious way, starts to align with it. Because when you carry yourself like someone of value, the world adjusts to meet that vibration. Think about it. When your standards rise, your environment has to rise with them. You stop tolerating conversations that drain your spirit. You stop giving second chances to people who have shown you they don't respect your boundaries. You stop participating in situations that force you to abandon your peace. It's not that you become cold or distant, you simply become selective. You begin to understand that protecting your energy is part of protecting your destiny, and it's not just about people. It's about everything: the work you choose, the way you spend your time, the goals you chase. When you value yourself, you stop settling for good enough. You start aiming higher, not because you're greedy, but because you finally understand what you're capable of. You're no longer content with surviving, you want to thrive, and in that pursuit, you naturally attract better circumstances, better relationships, and better results. But let's be clear, this isn't about pretending to be confident or faking self-worth. You can't trick the universe with words. True self-value isn't loud, it's steady. It's in the way you follow through on your promises to yourself. It's in the way you choose discipline over comfort, integrity over convenience, and self-respect over popularity. That consistency builds an unshakable inner power, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything, because it's simply is asterisk. Of course, when you start valuing yourself, not everyone will celebrate it. Some people will accuse you of being different, of being too much, of changing. And they'll be right. You have changed. You've stopped settling for less. You've stopped confusing attention for love. You've stopped trying to earn your worth through suffering. You've remembered who you are, and that remembrance changes everything. Because when you value yourself, you attract people who see that value too. You draw on relationships rooted in respect, opportunities aligned with your purpose, and experiences that help you grow. Your world begins to reflect your internal belief that you are deserving, capable, and enough. In the end, you realize that life isn't about chasing what you lack. It's about becoming someone who naturally attracts what they deserve. The world is always reflecting you, your energy, your beliefs, your standards. So if you want your life to rise, you must rise first. Because when you elevate your value, everything around you is forced to rise with you. Confidence is one of those things people often misunderstand. They think it's something you're born with, that some people just wake up knowing their worth, knowing their power, while the rest of us are left to figure it out. But that's not true. Confidence isn't given, it's built. It's earned day by day through discipline, through perseverance, through showing up even when it's hard, even when you're terrified. It's not a gift, it's evidence. Evidence that you've faced the storm and survived. Evidence that you've fallen and gotten back up again. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you add another brick to the foundation of confidence. Every time you push through discomfort. Every time you do the thing you said you'd do. Even when no one's watching, that's how it's built. Confidence doesn't come from external validation. It comes from self-trust, and self-trust is forged in action. You can read all the motivational quotes in the world, but if you don't act, nothing changes. You don't become confident by talking about your potential. You become confident by proving it to yourself. People often wait for the feeling before they move. They want to feel ready, secure, certain. But that's not how it works. You act first, the feeling follows. Courage always comes before confidence. You face fear, and in doing so, you learn you're stronger than you thought. You take small steps, and each one becomes a declaration. I can do this. That's how momentum builds. That's how belief takes root. But here's what most people miss: confidence isn't about never doubting yourself. It's about learning to move forward despite the doubt. It's about standing in uncertainty and refusing to let fear dictate your choices. You can be afraid and still act with conviction. You can be nervous and still walk into the room like you belong there. That's real confidence, not the absence of fear, but mastery over it. And when you start to build that kind of confidence, your relationship with yourself changes. You stop looking to others for permission. You stop seeking constant reassurance. You begin to understand that no one is coming to save you, and strangely enough, that realization empowers you. Because if no one is coming, then you are free to become the person you've been waiting for. Confidence grows when you take responsibility for your life. When you stop blaming the world, your past, or other people for where you are, and start asking, "What can I do about it?" That question transforms everything. It shifts you from victimhood to ownership, and ownership is where real power lies. There will be moments when you stumble, when you feel like you're failing, when everything inside you wants to quit. But those are the exact moments that forge confidence. That's where resilience is born. You don't become confident from success alone. You become confident because you've seen yourself survive failure and rise anyway. Each time you rebuild, you're teaching your mind a powerful truth. Asterisk, I can trust myself. Asterisk, that self-trust becomes unshakable. It radiates in the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you carry yourself. People can feel it. They can sense when someone has earned their confidence the hard way. It's different from arrogance. It's grounded, it's humble, it doesn't need to shout. It just asterisk is asterisk. Confidence built from discipline and experience is something no one can take from you. Because it wasn't handed to you, you created it, you fought for it, you bled for it, and that makes it real. So stop waiting to feel confident before you begin. Begin, and confidence will follow. Because in the end, confidence isn't something you find. It's something you become. Honoring your worth isn't something you do once and move on from. It's something you practice every single day. It's a choice you make in the quiet moments when no one's watching. It's not just a mindset, it's a lifestyle. You can have all the awareness in the world. You can understand your value intellectually. But if your actions don't align with that belief, it means nothing. Valuing yourself is built through consistency, through the decisions you make when life tests your boundaries, your patience, and your discipline. Every day presents you with opportunities to either honor your worth or diminish it. When you choose to show up for yourself, when you say no to things that don't serve you, when you protect your peace even if it costs you approval, that's self-worth in motion. It's not glamorous, it's not always easy. Sometimes it means walking away from people you care about. Sometimes it means starting over alone, because you refuse to stay in spaces that make you small. That's the price of growth. That's the cost of peace. To honor your worth daily, you have to become intentional about what you allow into your life. What you consume, what you tolerate, what you focus on. You can't claim to value yourself while feeding your mind with negativity, gossip, or comparison. You can't say you respect your time and then waste it on people or habits that drain your energy. Self-worth requires accountability, not in a harsh or punishing way, but in a way that says, I am responsible for how I treat myself. Because if you don't take that responsibility, someone else will define your value for you. It's easy to talk about self-love when life is going well. But honoring your worth truly matters when things fall apart. When you fail, when you feel lost, when the world goes silent and you're left with only your thoughts. That's when your relationship with yourself is tested. Do you still speak kindly to yourself? Do you forgive yourself for mistakes? Do you hold yourself with compassion instead of judgment? That's where real worth is proven, not in perfection, but in patience. As you practice this daily, something begins to shift. You stop waiting for motivation to act because you understand that discipline is the truest form of self-respect. You stop measuring your value through other people's responses because you've learned to validate yourself. You stop needing to be liked because you'd rather be at peace. You become less reactive and more centered. The noise of the world doesn't shake you as easily because you've built an inner foundation of calm, one rooted in truth, not external validation. And people notice that. They may not understand it, but they feel it. There's something unexplainably powerful about someone who knows their worth. They walk differently, speak differently, exist differently. They don't chase. They attract. They don't over-explain. They state their truth and move on. That's what it means to live from self-respect, to exist in alignment with who you are, not who others expect you to be. But this isn't about perfection. You'll have days where you forget your worth, days when old habits creep in, when self-doubt whispers again. That's okay. The goal isn't to never fall. It's to recognize when you do and rise faster each time. Self-worth isn't a final destination. It's a daily recommitment. You wake up, you remember who you are, and you choose to live like it. Again and again. Because when you consistently honor your worth, life meets you at that level. You stop surviving and start thriving. You stop existing for others and start becoming who you were always meant to be, grounded, free, and whole. And in the end, that's the real transformation, when you no longer need to prove your value to anyone, because everything about the way you live already does. When you truly begin to value yourself, everything changes, not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you becomes stronger, clearer, and more grounded in who you are. You stop begging for permission to exist. You stop chasing validation. You stop giving your energy to things that drain your spirit. You begin to see that every part of your life, your relationships, your goals, your peace, is a reflection of how deeply you honor yourself. Valuing yourself is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's recognizing that your time, your energy, and your heart have meaning. It's understanding that the way you treat yourself teaches the world how to treat you. And when you finally decide that you are enough, not someday, not when things are perfect, but right now, you unlock a power that no one can take away. This journey isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the person you were always meant to be. The one who knows their worth, lives with intention, sets boundaries with grace, and walks with quiet confidence. Because once you realize your value, you stop settling for less. You stop living small, you rise. And when you rise, your entire world rises with you. That's when everything, your peace, your relationships, your future begins to transform. Because everything in your life changes the moment you do.